What a glorious sight to behold, as that thick Toad of the Stars strides to war in a battle where Pippington and the Lizardmen square off against ShetlandApache and the Skaven. This is not from the SFO tournament, we'll be getting back to that soon, but as the Carnosaurs of Lustria limber up for some good old-fashioned Ratman snacking, Tretch Craventail's already beat them to it. Can't get eaten by dinosaurs if you eat yourself first. Tretch isn't a lord who's going to win a battle for you all that often, but he won't lose one for you either, because he's really hard to kill. And Clan Eshin will be looking to make their mark here as 4 gutter runners hit the field, and ShetlandApache looks to spread the combat as wide as possible with 2 separate strong points at opposite ends of the map. Warp Lightning Cannons, the Dino killers, gearing up to snipe down those high-value targets. And the Lizards, well, their job will be to overwhelm the vermin in a tide of scales and claws and shut down that artillery before it has a chance to do any real damage. But the Skaven aren't going to make that easy. You can see the rats have a ton of chaff here, a ton of really unimportant and low-quality infantry, and by looking to engage out and away from the artillery, they can be protected for a lot longer than with a really compact formation, where dinos will basically just bounce through your line and tie up everything as soon as melee begins. You don't really want Stegadons just busting through the front line and getting into your artillery right away. So this kind of strategy will divide his opponent's attention and make it a lot more likely, at least, that one of those guns is up and running at all times. And of course, gutter runners are going to make that approach at each of those artillery positions a lot more difficult, while Pterodon riders with fire leech bolas are vanguard deployed, and they can be amazing for exploding blobs of Skaven infantry. But Clan Eshin might make their lives miserable if they get too close, because they have really low armor. There are 2 very different styles of play on display here, which usually makes for the most entertaining games, because Lizardmen are going heavy Saurus front line, Basilodon with Healing Crystal, Mazdamundi on top of Zlaaq, and fully kitted out for healing with Apotheosis and nuking down blobs of Skaven with Banishment and Ruination of Cities, Saurus Scar Veteran with the Carnosaur, and a bunch of feral cold ones. Very cheap, who can easily get into the back lines and ensure that routing Skaven stay routed. Looks like the Pterodons will begin the combat here, dropping some grenades on the gutter runners' heads, but this is not going to be fun for them, and they were not aware that Clan Eshin was already waiting for them. Those shurikens will find their mark, and when they shoot those fire leech bullets into them, they won't do a whole lot of damage either, because those gutter runners are in loose formation. They do have physical resist. So Pterodons need to get the hell out of there, as Warp Lightning Cannons open up into the Saurus front line and roast them up some juicy lizard legs. Really nice volleys there. Obviously not an ideal target. They'd rather be shooting at the Carnosaur or Mazdamundi, but those are not in range yet, and taking down some of those tanky Saurus will certainly help. But the Lizardmen will move up here, and they're going to try to close the gap as quickly as possible. You see the Skaven have really spread the field all over here, which can make things tough if you're an elite-focused army like the Lizardmen have. But Pippington knows what to do with his dinos, he knows what's important, and so he's going to make a concerted push to that first artillery position in the opening stages, as Rat Ogres hold in reserve, and Gutter Runners move up to begin their skirmish early on. Now, out here on the right flank, things are already getting a little bit scary for the Lizardmen, and the Saurus Spears are trying to chase after some clan rats and some slaves, and this is not something I recommend. So if you allow your units like this to get isolated, that kind of engagement can be very bad, because the Saurus can get pinned down by the slaves or the clans, then gutter runners are just shooting into their flank, opening up a line in your defense, opening up a gap rather, that gutter runners can kind of shoot through, and then just fire into your flank repeatedly with all those shurikens, and that'll rack up some serious damage. So he needs to keep his front line together and make that concerted push to the first artillery position, try to overwhelm that early, and those Saurus Spears would be much better suited fighting right near these Saurus with shields and making sure they don't get run over by Rat Ogres, and that's exactly what's going to happen right here. But Rat Ogres straight into Saurus, a little bit scary for them. I mean, they're not a particularly tanky monstrous infantry unit. Again, they are very much better when they have meat shields in front, but right now, they are just RKO slamming those Saurus into the ground over and over. Just an orgy of blood right there. Beautiful sight to behold, and they're going to smash through a lot of those Saurus early on, but should want to retreat very soon after that, after the charge bonus wears off. But the Scar Vet already making his move, charging forward now, going directly for the Warp Lightning Cannon. But first, some slaves will try to stop him, and he will roar his primal instincts to the sky and rip them in half before he manages to pull through and go right for the cannon. And making sure that thing stops firing early on going to be so important, because if you allow them to fire into your dinos, they're just going to die really fast. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. Rat Ogres again slamming through the Saurus after they were pulled back, and yeah, they've taken some damage for sure. I mean, the high weapon strength of the Saurus definitely doing their work on the low armor of the Rat Ogres, but you can see that Pippington and the Lizardmen are overloading the left flank here and making sure that Mazdamundi and that Scar Vet can get into the Warp Lightning Cannon crew, and he has done so, already terrified the crew, and more Saurus pushing up, and we can see the beautiful Zlaaq, the Ancient Stegadon, rampage his way through the battle line and gore dozens of them in a single charge. Very few things more satisfying than seeing dinos tear through a Skaven horde, and that's what they'll do, and the first strong point has fallen. But if you're ShetlandApache in the Skaven, that was kind of expected, right? That's exactly why he deployed his army in the way that he did. If he kept both his cannons together, they would probably already both be shut down, but instead, he still has operational Skryre tech up and running, and a bunch of annoying little assassins sniping down the feral cold ones. But Lizardmen are responding appropriately, immediately overloading the Skaven right flank and heading directly for Warp Lightning Cannon number 2, and he can afford to be a bit callous with his Scar Vet and the Carnosaur, because other than the cannon itself, not much can really kill it and quickly. Mazdamundi can obviously keep him topped off with Cold-Blooded and Apotheosis all day long, but the Pterodon Riders will get Howling Warp Galed, and combined with the Gutter Runners, they're gonna get destroyed there. Just absolutely destroyed by those volleys, but the Feral Cold ones are kind of jumping the gap here, getting in and behind, and he should be able to get into that Warp Lightning Cannon crew, although Rat Ogres kind of pinned down the Scar Vet for a bit. Apotheosis heals will need to go in very soon to keep him in the fight. That's a banishment going down for Mazdamundi, and I'm not really sure why. That does not work against monstrous infantry at all. It'll literally do like no damage. So I'm not sure what the purpose of that was. Might have been a misclick. He might have been going for an Apotheosis heal on the Scar Vet. Not sure actually. But either way, he is pushing up now. Saurus Spears, gonna get Warp Lightning from above. There is a Warp Block Engineer with some Warp Lightning and Howling Warp Gale like you just saw. And not quite able to finish up that Skaven artillery crew quite yet. But the Rat Ogres are routing, and now the Scar Vet and the Carnosaur should be free. The Bastiladon also, and everything, yeah, it's finally going to get tied down by some Feral Cold ones, and they can push forward, and both the artillery crews have been made silent now. So we've got a battle here, folks. We got a very good one, and a Ruination of Cities, such a cool spell, sending rat men to the nether realm, and this displeases Mr. Craventail. He wants to get stuck in and start putting a bit of hurt, bit of bonus that bonus versus large on that Bastiladon as the Raki rally to his side and push forward. The battle lines have completely shifted now. It is crazy how much the complexion of this battlefield has already shifted so much in 7 short minutes, but the dinosaurs are now doing what they love doing, which is snacking on all these little Raki, and when you've got 3 of them together operating in that big scary blob, it's going to be a very tough thing for the rat men to take them down. But here, you can see some Gutter Runners dealing with the Feral Cold ones out on that flank, and actually doing pretty well in melee as a Warp Lightning Cannon, or rather Warp Lightning in general, rains down from above. Mazdamundi stomping forward and sending rat men flying with Zlaaq the Stegadon, just bowling through them. So much mass behind that Ancient Stegadon, so much killing power, and much of this chaff is going to be in danger. Reminds me of Ralph Wiggum. I'm in danger. Yeah, that's pretty much what these rat men are doing right now. They're going to get absolutely stomped into the ground. There's not really a whole lot they can do about it. Oh my god, it is so satisfying to watch. And we've got Carnosaur in the background, about to get a rear charge off, and this is looking really, really bad for the Thagaraki right now. They just have free reign. There aren't a lot of Storm Vermin, there aren't a lot of Rat Ogres, and as soon as the Rat Ogres do rout, taking down the big dinos is going to be super tough. But honestly though, the Saurus and the rest of the main line, they've been routed. I mean, there's really not a whole lot left for the Lizardmen either. Big net of Ammontok going down on the Skaven, and that's going to line up some kind of Vortex of Banishment on the right flank of the Thagaraki, and that's just going to do a lot. Let's look at his kills here. Oh my god. Going up so fast. That wasn't even an amazing cast. That Vortex was kind of unlucky in where it decided to spin off to. Man, Banishments and Vortex in general, I love the design for the spell. Of course, they should not be pinpoint accurate, but it can be very frustrating to put a big Vortex on a big blob and then just have it veer off into the sunset and do not a whole lot. There, it made an impact. You saw a lot of Skaven rout, but not as big an impact as he would have liked, I'm sure. Over here, the Bastiladon has routed though, and Gutter Runner is chasing him down. They have poison, so it can't really disengage. Bigger issue though, if the Gutter Runners stay on it, it won't be able to rally, and that would be a really slick move from ShetlandApache and the Skaven to make sure that terror-causing tank never comes back to the fight. take the bull by the horns and lead it right off the battlefield. And the bastions of leadership are still around for the Skaven as well. Tretch Craventail, the unkillable scrub that he is, and the Warplock Engineer are still around as the Storm Vermin and the remnants of the Rat Ogres flock to the Scar Vet and try to drag it into the muck. That is another Ruination of Cities, and that one kind of hit, but again, not a beautifully placed wind spell or vortex, and not going to get a whole ton of a lot of kills there. There are a few clan rats and random scrubs hanging out in the back that have routed and rallied. They're coming back to the fight now, and the Skaven are just sending everything they possibly can. I mean, they're all over the map right now, just trying to drag down these big dinos. But Feral Cold One's charging in from behind, gonna cause some of those storms to rout. Terror is kicking in, but they should rally. I think that those storms haven't routed once this game, so they're not gonna be near. I want to say there's a cap of like 3 or 4 for some units, where if you have been terror routed 3 or 4 times, you end up just shattering. But it hasn't happened yet for them. They're still in the fight. They're coming back now, and ShetlandApache and the Skaven are just sending everything back into the fight that they can. But the Cold-Blooded and the Apotheosis stacking up all those heals is going to be a problem. Bounding into combat, so cool to watch that happen. And the Carnosaur is going to start ripping through the clan rats out here. But what does Lizardmen have left now? I want to say they have Mazdamundi, they have the Scar Vet, but the, oh crap, yeah, we've got the Warp Lightning Cannon. Crew has come back, and that's going to be scary for Lizards, because yeah, they have nothing left. They have nothing left but the Stegadon and the Carnosaur here, and those are going to be incredibly hard to drag down unless the cannon crew can start firing again and do all that HP damage from long range. And they're pinned right now. I'm not sure Pippington and Lizardman has noticed it yet, but they are running back to the cannon, and they might be able to bring that back online. And that is something that is so smart if you're a Skaven player or anyone who's using artillery, is if you pull your cannon crew away from the cannons when they're about to get overwhelmed, a lot of the time, your opponent will forget about them, and then later on in the battle, you can do exactly this, which is put them back on the cannons and just have them start firing again. Look at how far away they are. It's going to be a long time before the Scar Vet or Mazdamundi can close that gap and shut it down for good. So while Mazdamundi deals with this big blob, oh man, he would love to have another one of his vortexes or another one of those Ruination of Cities available right now. But I think he used both his banishments and both of his bound spells already. So I don't think he'll be able to do any more casting. And meanwhile, the Scar Vet is being sniped down, and I'm not sure he has any more heals either. Mazdamundi's leadership a little bit low, although, man, he could just do so much damage to that blob of Skaven infantry. I don't know what the max attack value is of the Stegadon in terms of how many units it can hit at a single time, but it's a lot when he's charging through those big groups. Scar Vet looking to close the gap now. Straight out of Jurassic Park as the Indominus Rex roars its disapproval, and death will find a way for the Warp Lightning Cannon crew, but not before they get a final shot off into the Predator. And their dino food now. Carnosaur is going to have a lot to snack on, and a tail flap will bring down the first cannon, but the crew should be running for the hills at this point, so I don't think it really matters. Over here, Mazdamundi is solo carrying the battle. He is solo trying to terror out that huge horde of Skaven, and here comes the Scar Vet, and this will be the final engagement. If they can terror out the Skaven, they can carry the day. If not, they'll be dragged down and eaten by what remains of the Skaven horde. Glorious charge. A glorious last stand. I'm not sure who's going to pull this one out. Zlaaq and the Stegadon fighting to the last. The Carnosaur fighting, and they're going to rout. And that will be the battle. Skaven will pull it out by the skin of their teeth. They had very little left there. They will manage to carry the day in a really close, really exciting battle. And for the Lizardmen, I feel like they approached that battle the right way. I think they did a good job moving from one Warp Lightning Cannon crew to the next, and Mazdamundi got a ton of kills, almost 300, which is kind of to be expected against the big hordes of Skaven. But I feel like a couple of those vortexes were misplaced, and if he had held on to them for a better time, for a juicier time, he could have maybe just outright routed their horde and carried the day that way. For ShetlandApache, The Gutter Runners made a huge impact that game. Again, when you roll with them in groups, you want to have one poison, one non-poison, and together they can take on enemy cav, they can take on a lot of stuff, do a lot of damage that way. But the deployment, the way he spread the field, and the Warp Lightning Cannon crews on opposite ends of the map really divided Pippington's attention and made sure that they did a lot more damage than they would have done if they were together. So really interesting battle, well played to both players. I'll see you in the next one. Indie Pride, signing out for now.